It always starts in silence, not the peaceful kind of silence, but the heavy, suffocating type. The kind that wraps itself around your chest like a vice and presses until you can barely breathe. You lie there, staring at the ceiling, your heartbeat loud enough to echo in your ears, and you wonder why. Why does everything feel so wrong when nothing around you has changed? Why does your mind feel like a stranger, whispering doubts you swore you'd already silenced? You try to shake the feeling, but it clings to you like a fog that refuses to lift. You don't remember inviting the darkness in, but somehow it made itself at home. And in that moment, in that cold stillness where the world sleeps and your thoughts scream, you realize you are in a war. Not one of bullets or fists, but a war within yourself. You begin to question if you're even safe inside your own mind. Your thoughts twist and spiral, distorting everything you thought you knew. You tell yourself you're fine, but a voice, faint at first, then louder, asks, are you? It pokes at your fears, magnifies your mistakes, replays old memories like broken records. Moments you forgot, moments you forgave, are dragged back into the light and held in front of you like accusations. You try to reason, but reasoning feels useless against emotion. Logic crumbles when you're drowning in feelings you can't name. Fear of the future, regret from the past, a deep sense of inadequacy, and a haunting suspicion that you'll never really be free from this. You want to scream, but nothing comes out. You want to run, but there's nowhere to go when your greatest enemy is living in your own head. This is where most people break. This is where they quit. Because when your own thoughts start turning against you, the line between reality and illusion blurs. You start to doubt yourself, your worth, your capabilities. You begin to question whether the confidence you once had was just a lie you told yourself. You start to think maybe the negative voice is right. Maybe you're not enough. Maybe you never were. You stare at the mirror, hoping to see the version of yourself you used to believe in, but all you see is someone exhausted, someone hollowed out from trying to fight a battle that no one else sees. And yet in that darkness there is something else, faint, flickering, but real. It's not strength yet, not in the way people talk about it. It's not a roar, it's not defiance, it's just a whisper, but it's yours. A tiny spark of resistance that says, this isn't who I am. You might not know how to fix it. You might not know how to win, but you know one thing, you don't want to surrender, and that asterisk is where everything starts to shift. The truth is, everyone talks about mastering emotions like it's some external strategy, like it's about meditating for 20 minutes or saying affirmations in the mirror. But that's not where the battle begins. The real fight starts in the moments when your chest tightens for no reason, and your thoughts turn poisonous, and your own reflection looks like a stranger. It starts when your own brain tells you that you're not worth saving, and you decide to fight back anyway. Mastery isn't about perfection. It's about resistance. It's about looking at the ugliest parts of your inner world and saying, I'm not afraid of you anymore. You see, emotions are not your enemy, they're signals. Fear is trying to protect you. Sadness is asking you to heal. Anger is telling you something's been violated. The problem is, when your mind turns against you, it stops translating those signals correctly. It doesn't just tell you something's wrong. It tells you what's wrong. It tells you the failure. The mistake. That's the lie. That's the real war. Not against the emotions themselves, but against the story they start writing in your mind. You are not the story. You are the author. And every moment you choose to challenge those thoughts, to pause before believing them, to step back instead of sink in, you take back a piece of control. There will be days when it feels like you're losing. Days when the anxiety is louder than your logic. Days when your emotions hijack your body and no amount of deep breathing seems to work. That's okay. That doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're fighting. You don't have to win every round. You just have to keep showing up. You just have to remember that your thoughts are not facts, that your emotions are not dictators, that you are not broken. You are in battle. And in every battle there's a turning point, not a grand dramatic moment, but something quiet, a decision, a whisper in your soul that says, asterisk no more. Asterisk no more letting fear drive the car, no more letting anger speak for you, no more letting sadness define you. You get to choose differently. You get to stand in the chaos and not let it consume you. You get to acknowledge the storm and still move forward. Mastering your emotions isn't about pretending you don't feel. It's about not letting those feelings own you. It's about having the awareness to say, this is anxiety, not reality. This is anger, not truth. This is sadness, not identity. That separation is power. That awareness is the beginning of freedom. It won't always be easy. In fact, most of the time, it will feel like climbing a mountain in the dark. But step by step, breath by breath, you'll begin to find your footing. You'll learn the patterns. You'll recognize the lies. You'll start to catch your mind mid-sentence and say, no, not today. And maybe that's the most important thing of all. Not that you'll never feel lost again. Not that the thoughts will never return, but that when they do, they'll find someone different waiting, someone stronger, someone wiser, someone who's been to the edge and refused to fall, because you've seen what happens when the mind turns against you, and you chose to fight anyway. That's real mastery. That's what makes you unstoppable. Most people live their lives without ever realizing they've handed over the steering wheel of their mind. They don't notice how often they're reacting instead of deciding, how often they're driven by emotions they don't even understand. From the moment they wake up, it begins, a subtle, invisible force tugging at them, pushing them in directions they didn't choose. The weight of anxiety settles in their chest before they even brush their teeth. A single thought spirals into dozens more, and suddenly, the day feels like something to survive, not something to live. But they don't question it because it feels normal. It feels automatic, and that's the danger. That's the trap. When your emotional patterns become automatic, you stop choosing. You start surrendering. But the truth is, you were never meant to live at the mercy of your emotions. You were built to rise above them, not to erase them, but to command them. Emotions are not enemies, but they are not leaders either. They're signals, information, temporary. You don't ignore them, but you don't bow to them either. And the moment you realize that, truly realize it, you start to reclaim your life. You begin to remember that you are not a puppet pulled by invisible strings. You are the one holding the strings. You just forgot. Emotional discipline doesn't mean you don't feel things. It doesn't mean you become cold or robotic. It means you choose your responses. You take the time to understand the storm inside you instead of letting it drag you away. And it all starts with awareness. That's the first spark. You begin to notice the pattern. You notice how one rude comment from someone can hijack your entire mood. You notice how one failure replays in your head for hours, drowning out every success. You catch the way your mind rushes to worst-case scenarios before you've even had a chance to breathe. And you realize something. This isn't how you want to live. This isn't strength. This is survival, and you are meant for more, so you begin to pause. That's the first act of power. A pause, not to react. Not to explode, not to collapse, but to take a breath and create space between the emotion and the action. That space is your power. In that space, you remember who you are. In that space, you remember that you have a choice. You don't have to yell just because you're angry. You don't have to quit just because you're scared. You don't have to spiral just because anxiety knocked on your door again. You can pause, you can think. You can decide, that is strength, and here's something else. They don't teach this in school, but it's the foundation of everything. Just because a thought enters your mind doesn't mean it's true. Just because an emotion hits your chest doesn't mean it deserves control. You are not your thoughts. You are the one observing them. You are not your emotions. You are the one experiencing them. When you can separate who you are from what you feel, you unlock a level of strength most people never reach. Most people live in a loop. Feel, react, regret, repeat. But you can break the loop. You can look at your emotions, name them, understand them, and still choose your path. That's real power. You start to see the triggers. The moments that used to send you into rage or fear or doubt, they become training grounds. You don't run from them anymore. You study them. You watch how your heart races, how your palms sweat, how your mind starts building false stories. And then you take control, you breathe slower, you speak softer, you hold your ground, you don't feed the storm, you ride it, and every time you do that, you grow. Every time you choose calm over chaos, clarity over panic, reason over reaction, you train your brain to follow your lead. And that's how change happens, not in giant leaps, but in small victories, quiet, steady, powerful victories. There's a moment when you begin to feel it, this inner shift. You're no longer just surviving your emotions. You're using them. Anger becomes fuel for boundaries. Sadness becomes a sign that something matters. Fear becomes a signal that you're stepping into growth. You stop running from what you feel, and you start using it like a compass. But you're the one steering now. You've taken back the wheel. People might not notice at first. They'll expect you to react the way you used to. They'll try to push the same buttons, but they'll start to see it too. That you've changed. That you're no longer controlled by the moment. You don't rise to every provocation. You don't fold under pressure. You're steady, grounded, and when people see that, it changes the way they treat you. Because power, real power, commands respect. Not because you demand it, but because you embody it. It doesn't mean you won't have bad days. It doesn't mean the negative voice in your head disappears forever. But it means you know how to handle it now. You know how to catch yourself before the fall. You know how to step back and say, this emotion is strong, but it's not stronger than me. You've trained for this. You've built the mental muscles, and when life throws the next storm at you, and it will, you won't be shaken the way you used to be, because you've already stood in the storm, and you didn't break. You bent. You breathed, you chose, and that's what makes you unshakable. This isn't a one-time transformation. It's a lifestyle. It's a decision you make every day to respond instead of react, to think instead of explode, to feel without becoming consumed. And every day, it gets easier, not because the emotions get weaker, but because you get stronger. You know yourself now. You trust yourself. You know how to come back to center, even when the world around you spins out of control. You've stopped being a passenger in your own life. You've taken the seat at the front. And even though the road may still have twists and turns, even though fear may still whisper and doubt, may still knock, you've got the wheel in your hands. You're not perfect. You don't need to be, but you're present. You're in control. You're awake. And that changes everything. Pain doesn't knock. It breaks in. It doesn't wait for permission. One day you're fine, smiling, breathing, living, and then something hits. Maybe it's a failure you didn't see coming. Maybe it's a betrayal that cut deeper than you thought possible. Maybe it's a slow, creeping emptiness that grew louder in your silence. Whatever it is, it doesn't ask for your schedule. It doesn't care if you're ready, it just arrives, and when it does, it doesn't just hurt. It changes you, the world seems dimmer, your thoughts become heavier, you start to see everything through the lens of what went wrong. And worst of all, there's a voice inside that tells you this is permanent, that this feeling will last forever, that you'll never escape it, that maybe you were never meant to, but that voice is lying. Pain has a way of distorting truth. It makes you forget who you are. It makes you think you're broken, weak, alone. But what it doesn't tell you is that pain is also a doorway. It's not the end, it's the beginning. You see, most people try to run from their pain. They numb it, bury it, avoid it. But you can't heal what you refuse to face. And when you don't face your pain, it controls you. It hides in the background, shaping your choices, clouding your thoughts, limiting your life. But if you have the courage, the raw, terrifying courage, to sit with it, to really feel it, something incredible begins to happen. You stop being a victim of it. You start transforming it. Every scar you carry tells a story, not of weakness, but of survival. Every moment you thought you couldn't get through, but did is proof that pain didn't win. It tried, it came close, but you're still here, still breathing, still standing. That's not a small thing, that's strength. That's proof. You see, pain has the power to crush you, but it also has the power to forge you. It all depends on what you do with it. You can let it define you, or you can let it drive you. You can let it break you down, or you can let it build you into someone new. People think power comes from success, from always winning, from never falling, but real power, it's built in the dark. It's built when you've lost something that mattered, when you've failed so badly that you didn't know if you'd ever recover. When you've cried until there was nothing left and still got up the next day. That's where power is born, in the pain, in the grit, in the moments that tried to destroy you, and didn't. That's where transformation happens. You begin to see pain not as an enemy, but as a teacher. It doesn't come to ruin you. It comes to reveal you, to strip away what's false, to burn off the parts of you that were never strong enough to carry you forward. It exposes what you truly believe about yourself, about your worth, about your purpose, and in that exposure you have a choice. You can either accept the broken story pain tries to write for you, or you can write a new one. One where you rise. One where you take every piece of what hurt you and use it as fuel. Not to destroy others, not to get revenge, but to build a fire inside so strong that no storm can put it out. Because here's the truth most people don't say. You can't truly be strong until you've been broken. Not just shaken, broken, and not just once, but again and again, and every time you've chosen to rebuild, stronger, smarter, more focused. You didn't lose yourself in the pain. You found yourself in it. You found out what you really care about. You found out who you really are. You found the parts of you that were buried under comfort, under ease, under distraction. Pain stripped it all away and left you raw, real, alive. And you start to notice something else. The same pain that once made you feel like a prisoner starts to give you power. You walk differently. You speak with more weight. Your eyes carry a fire that wasn't there before. Because you've been through the fire, you've seen what it looks like on the edge, and now nothing scares you the way it used to. Not because the world got easier, but because you got stronger. You learned that you can survive heartbreak. You learned that you can recover from failure. You learned that you can lose everything and still find something worth fighting for. That kind of power, it can't be taught in books. It can't be inherited. It has to be earned through the moments when you were alone, through the nights that felt endless, through the ache that never seemed to stop. That's where it's built, and the beautiful part is, you're not just stronger for yourself. Your pain becomes purpose. Your story becomes someone else's lifeline. Because when you've walked through hell and kept going, you become someone others can look to. Not because you're perfect, but because you're proof that survival is possible. That healing is real. That strength isn't about what you show the world, it's about what you fought through in silence. So don't hide your pain. Don't apologize for your scars. Don't downplay what you've overcome. Let it show, let it shine, not for pity, but for power. Because every time you tell the truth about what hurt you and how you kept going, you remind someone else that they can too. That pain doesn't get the final word. That strength isn't the absence of struggle. It's the result of it. You are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become, and you can choose, right now, to turn your pain into power, to stop asking why and start asking how. Asterisk, how will this shape me? Asterisk, asterisk, how will I use this? Asterisk, because you've already survived the worst. Now it's time to build the best, the version of you that pain tried to kill, but instead made unstoppable. There comes a moment when everything you've endured begins to shift. Not because the world changes, but because you change. You've walked through storms that threatened to pull you apart. You've faced the parts of yourself you once feared. You've stood at the edge of despair, felt the weight of your own doubts press against your chest, and somehow you're still here. But now something is different. There's a quiet inside you, a strength that doesn't shout, a certainty that doesn't need applause. And in this silence, in this grounded stillness, you realize something powerful. Peace isn't something you find, it's something you build. At first it feels unfamiliar because you're so used to chaos. You're so used to waking up with tension in your chest, to scanning the day for the next threat, to measuring yourself by how well you survived another emotional ambush. But now there's space, not because life suddenly got easier, but because you stopped running. You stopped feeding the fear. You stopped letting anger speak for you. You stopped giving your power away to every fleeting emotion that demanded your attention. And in doing that, you created room for something new, clarity. Clarity doesn't come with noise. It arrives when you remove the clutter, when you stop filling every quiet moment with distractions. It shows up when you face the truth without excuses, the truth of who you are, what you want, what you no longer accept. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You begin to understand the cost of emotional slavery, how much time, energy, and peace you sacrifice by letting your inner world rule your outer life. And you decide fully and finally that you're done living that way. This decision doesn't make you perfect. It doesn't mean you won't feel things deeply. In fact, you'll feel more, but with a new kind of wisdom. You'll see anger coming and recognize the fear behind it. You'll feel sadness and understand the need it's revealing. You'll notice envy and see where you've abandoned your own potential. You don't push emotions away anymore. You greet them, listen to them, learn from them, but you no longer hand them the keys. Because you've learned that emotions are not the enemy, avoiding them is. The more you stay present with what you feel, the less control those feelings have. They stop building pressure in the shadows. They stop turning into outbursts or breakdowns. They pass through you and you stay grounded. You remain in control, not because you suppress your emotions, but because you understand them. That understanding becomes your freedom. You don't fear your reactions anymore. You know yourself. You trust your ability to respond instead of react. That's emotional mastery, but mastery is not a destination. It's a discipline, one you recommit to every day. Some mornings, you'll wake up clear and centered. Others, you'll be pulled back into the storm. Old thoughts will whisper. Old habits will knock. But now, you'll have the tools to face them. You'll breathe through the anxiety instead of believing its lies. You'll sit with discomfort instead of running from it. You'll speak calmly when your ego wants to scream. And every time you choose presence over panic, you reclaim your power, and people will notice. They won't always say it, but they'll feel it. Your energy will change. You'll walk into rooms differently. You won't shrink to make others comfortable. You won't explain yourself just to keep the peace. You won't carry burdens that don't belong to you. Instead, you'll lead with stillness, with self-respect, with a calm confidence that comes from knowing you don't need to prove anything. You've already proven the most important thing to yourself. That you can handle your mind, that you can lead your emotions, that you can be the anchor in any storm. But the most powerful transformation isn't what the world sees. It's what you feel when you're alone. You will sit with yourself and feel safe, not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer hiding from yourself. You've faced your shadows. You've made peace with your past. You've stopped needing others to validate your worth. And in that solitude, in that radical self-ownership, you'll find a peace that no one can take from you. A peace that isn't built on control, but on surrender. The kind of surrender that says, I trust myself. I trust the process. I trust that no matter what comes, I will respond with strength, with clarity, with love. Love becomes the final layer, not the soft, surface-level kind, but the deep, unshakable kind. The love that stays when you've failed. The love that forgives when you're still healing. The love that believes in your power even when you forget. That love for yourself becomes the fuel for everything else. You stop chasing approval. You stop seeking validation. You stop needing others to tell you you're enough, because you you are. And when you live from that place, your life changes. You stop rushing. You stop reacting. You begin creating. You start building relationships that reflect your worth. You speak with intention. You move with purpose. You choose peace, not because you're avoiding conflict, but because you've made peace within yourself. And when conflict arises, as it will, you handle it from a place of calm authority. You no longer fight to win. You speak to understand. You no longer try to control everything. You trust your ability to adapt. That trust, that peace, that clarity, that is the evidence of emotional mastery. And the best part is, this isn't rare. This isn't reserved for the enlightened few. It's available to anyone who's willing to face themselves fully. To sit in discomfort, to let go of the false identities created by fear. It's available to you right now, not someday, not when things are easier, not when you've achieved more, but now, in this moment. With all that you are, all it takes is the decision to stop giving your emotions the throne, and to take back your place as the leader of your life. You've already survived enough to prove you're strong. You've already carried weight most people can't see, and now it's your time. Time to rise from reaction into awareness. Time to lead from truth instead of fear. Time to master the one thing that shapes everything else, your inner world. Because once your mind becomes your ally, there is nothing outside of you that can break you. Once you lead your emotions, you stop being led by them. And that is when your life truly begins, not from the outside in, but from the inside out.